I knew it was going to be a bad day the minute I saw Marcus. The old-timer who runs the dock at Anchor Bay, sprinting toward me, full-on, arms flailing, red-faced sprint, like he'd just seen a ghost and was trying to outrun it. And he didn't even slow down, just kept coming until he was right up in my face, breathing hard, looking absolutely terrified. And before I could even get the word "hey" out of my mouth, he yelled, "They took it, man! The tidal wave is gone!" Gone. Just the sound of that word, gone, felt like a gut punch, a cold, empty feeling spreading through my chest because my 26-foot sport cruiser, the tidal wave, my absolute pride and joy, the boat I'd spent 2 straight years of my life restoring myself, every last wire, every polished chrome piece, every custom-stitched cushion. It couldn't be gone. It was impossible. I'd tied it up myself less than an hour ago. Double-knotted the mooring lines like always. Checked the locks, the whole routine. It wasn't some flimsy rental. It was my freedom, my money, my soul sitting out there on the water. But then Marcus just pointed, his hand shaking, out toward the open water where the channel met the bay. And there she was, Elara. I swear my stomach just dropped right through the floorboards of the dock. It was Elara Vance, the HOA queen, the talking tornado of entitlement that had plagued our upscale coastal community, Cypress Point, for the last 6 months, and she was at the helm of my boat, my beautiful, expensive private property, being piloted by a woman in a ridiculous, oversized, wide-brimmed white hat, absolutely blasting some terrible, upbeat 80s pop song so loud you could hear the distortion. And she was waving, actually waving, like some kind of benevolent royal on a damn parade float, to a few bewildered fishermen who were just trying to set their early morning lines. Marcus stammered, his eyes wide as dinner plates. She told me she was just taking it for a joyride. A quick spin around the harbor, said you wouldn't mind, said it was a community asset now. A joyride. That's a phrase you use for a shared bike, maybe a borrowed paperback book. Not a 6-figure vessel that I practically slept on, not a boat that represented years of grueling work and scrimping. The sheer, breathtaking, mind-numbing audacity of it all was physically stunning. And for a second, all I could do was stand there, pulse hammering in my temples, watching her weave slightly in the channel, clearly having no idea what the hell she was doing. Then Finn, my best friend since high school, came jogging up, mid-sip from his oversized iced coffee. He's always got an iced coffee. Doesn't matter the temperature, and he looked completely oblivious. "What's the emergency, big guy? Did a seagull steal your lunch?" he asked. Then he followed my gaze, and I swear he did a physical double-take, the coffee nearly flying out of his hand, tilting his head as his brain tried to process the surreal sight. "Wait, is that... No way. Is that Elara? Is she actively stealing your boat?" "She prefers the term borrowing," I managed to grit out. The rage I felt a cold, hard stone in my chest, not the fiery kind, but the destructive, focused kind. This wasn't just a random act of theft. This was the ugly culmination of months of festering, low-grade, HOA-mandated warfare. Elara lived 3 houses down from me in the most aggressively manicured section of Cypress Point, and she had become absolutely obsessed with the tidal wave since the day I launched her. Our core conflict, the deep, irritating, profoundly stupid conflict that had defined every single one of our last few community meetings, was all about equity and fairness. Elara, who was independently wealthy and drove a luxury SUV that cost more than my boat, was constantly vocal about how it was unfair that people like me hoarded expensive luxury items when others couldn't afford them, arguing that community resources should be, communally shared for the greater good. She'd always end her rants with this dramatic, sighing comment about the wealth disparity right here in Cypress Point, always looking directly at me when she said it. The last time I'd seen her, she was passive-aggressively complimenting the tidal wave's shiny new finish, then sighing loudly about the lack of shared recreational assets in the neighborhood. I'd always laughed it off then, honestly, never imagining that level of pure, unadulterated entitlement could actually translate into Grand Theft Auto, or rather, Grand Theft Vessel. But here she was, proof that I was wrong, and she was a disaster waiting to happen, a human-shaped hurricane in a sun hat. She was already swerving sharply, causing waves that were rocking the smaller fishing dinghies so hard they were taking on water. Ignoring the furious shouts of seasoned captains who knew a lunatic when they saw one, Finn was already pulling out his phone, starting to record. "Buddy, you're either going to need the best maritime lawyer in the state, or you're calling the big guns. This is literally a maritime incident in progress." I was already dialing, instinctively bypassing the joke that was the local marina security and going straight for the real authority, the United States Coast Guard, because this was beyond a property dispute. This was actively dangerous. As I waited for them to pick up, I gritted my teeth. Watching Alara actually prop her phone up on the dash and try to take another selfie, one hand still gripping the wheel, not even looking where she was going. "Coast Guard, what's your emergency?" The voice on the line was clipped, professional. "Yes. Hi," I said, trying, desperately, to keep the hysteria out of my voice. "My boat has been stolen. My 26-foot sport cruiser, the Tidal Wave." That got their attention, a definite shift in the line's energy. "Stolen? Can you provide a description of the vessel and the operator?" "Oh, yeah," I said, my voice tight, the words pouring out in a single rushed breath. "It's a white cruiser, twin-engine, currently being piloted by a blonde woman in a very large sun hat who is demonstrating an extreme, almost supernatural lack of ability to operate a vessel and is actively endangering other mariners. She has no idea what she's doing." Finn choked on his iced coffee, nearly spraying it all over the dock. "Did you just call her supernatural to the Coast Guard?" he whispered, struggling to contain his laughter. The officer on the line paused for a beat, just a perfect beat of silence that spoke volumes, then asked in a perfectly neutral, almost amused voice, "Do you know the individual, sir?" "Unfortunately, yes," I muttered, rubbing my temples. I heard the rapid typing on the other end. "Roger that. Dispatching a patrol vessel immediately to the Anchor Bay channel. Is the suspect armed?" I watched Alara attempt some sort of sharp amateur turn that nearly took out the main dock's ladder, only with stupidity and a truly shocking amount of hubris. I sighed, running a hand over my face. Finn, meanwhile, was getting his tripod out and securely locking his phone in place. "Dude, this is gold. This is viral content, man. We're going to be famous, at least for a week." I didn't care about fame. Honestly, I cared about getting my boat back in one piece. And more importantly, stopping Alara from hurting someone with my tidal wave. She was still having the time of her life, blissfully unaware, probably captioning her new selfie with something absolutely ridiculous like, "Living my best life, yacht life, baby!" Anchor community share. Just then, a little guy in a tiny blue fishing skiff had to actually throw himself overboard just as she passed, missing his boat by inches. My jaw ached from clenching my teeth so hard I could feel a migraine starting. The Coast Guard officer came back on the line. "Sir, we have a visual on your vessel. Designation confirmed. Our team is moving in. Do you want to press charges?" "Yes," I said immediately, without hesitation. Finn raised an eyebrow. "You sure about that, man? Think about the memes. You could be a legend, the guy who let it slide." "She almost killed a fisherman, Finn." "She stole my boat." "She rammed a boat into a skiff." Before I could get another word out, a burst of static crackled over the phone, and I heard the Coast Guard radioing in. "We have the suspect in sight. She appears uncooperative, is actively maneuvering away." I squinted. Alara had snatched off her hat and was now aggressively arguing with the Coast Guard through my boat's railing, waving her phone around like it was a legally binding document, clearly trying to prove she had some kind of imaginary permission to be in control. I shoved my phone at Finn and took off sprinting down the dock, adrenaline surging through me, wanting to be there when they finally got to her. I reached the end of the dock, my heart pounding against my ribs, just as the patrol boat pulled alongside the tidal wave. A tall Coast Guard officer was shouting firm instructions through a bullhorn. "Prepare to secure the engine. Power down immediately and prepare to be boarded." But Alara was ignoring him, completely focused on her indignant argument about her rights as a community member. Then, to my utter horror, she lost it. She stopped arguing, let out a shriek of pure, petulant frustration, and rammed the throttle forward. "Oh, you absolute idiot!" I screamed out loud, clutching the nearest piling. The tidal wave lurched forward violently, Ilara actually laughing like this was all some kind of exciting high-speed game of tag. But Karma, sweet, swift, beautiful, fiberglass-destroying Karma, was done playing. With a deafening, stomach-churning metallic crunch, the tidal wave slammed directly and aggressively into a large navigational buoy. The boat shuddered violently. The momentum threw Ilara forward so hard, she nearly face-planted right onto the steering wheel, her ridiculous hat finally flying off and into the bay. The Coast Guard didn't hesitate for a second. Within seconds, 2 officers were climbing onto the tidal wave, securing the engine and roughly pulling Ilara away from the controls. She was absolutely shrieking now, flailing her arms like a toddler denied an ice cream cone in the middle of a hot summer day. I was going to bring it back. It's not stealing if I return it. It's a borrow. Finn, who was doubled over, tears streaming from his eyes, somehow managed to capture all of it on his phone. Did she just coin a new legal defense? He gasped between gasps of laughter. A borrow? Oh man, this is priceless. I wasn't laughing. I was just staring at the tidal wave, my beautiful, now very damaged boat. The starboard side had a huge, gaping, ugly dent from the collision, and I could already calculate the staggering cost of fiberglass and gel coat repairs, the lost weekends, the insurance headaches. My stomach was a knot of cold, sick fury. One of the Coast Guard officers, a calm, professional woman named Officer Riley, signaled to me. "Sir, are you the owner?" I nodded stiffly, unable to speak much louder than a croak. "Do you wish to press charges?" I looked over at Ilara. She was still protesting, still insisting this was all a misunderstanding, but then she made the mistake of making eye contact with me, and her expression immediately shifted to manipulative, calculating pleading. "You wouldn't do that, would you?" She whined, the entitlement not even wavering in her voice. The nerve. The sheer, unadulterated, granite-hard nerve of this woman. I crossed my arms tightly. "You stole my boat. You almost killed a fisherman. You crashed into a navigational marker, and now I have to fix your mess, and I haven't even mentioned the fuel you burned." She actually scoffed, tossing her now messy, damp blonde hair. "Oh my God, it was just a boat ride. You are being so dramatic about a little ding." That did it. That singular, entitled dismissal of all the damage and danger she had caused, that was the final straw. The one that broke my last thread of patience. I turned to Officer Riley and said loud and clear with an immense sense of finality, "Throw the book at her. Every single charge you have." Ilara's jaw dropped. "What?" As the Coast Guard officers efficiently hauled her off my damaged boat, I finally allowed myself to exhale, that long, shaky breath of immense, satisfying relief. The immediate nightmare was over. But I knew the longer one was just beginning, because as Ilara was being led onto the patrol boat, she whipped her head around, her eyes flashing with a cold, intense rage. Not embarrassment, not shame, but pure, unadulterated hatred. And I knew right then that she wasn't done, that she was going to make this my problem forever. She was still flailing as the officers secured her with handcuffs, which only made her more dramatic, of course. "This is unbelievable! You can't just arrest people for borrowing things. I'll sue the HOA. I'll sue the Coast Guard," she shrieked. Officer Riley, the one who handled her, didn't even grant her the dignity of a glance. "Ma'am, you are being detained for the unauthorized use of a marine vessel, reckless endangerment, and failure to comply with maritime regulations. Your HOA has no jurisdiction here." Reckless endangerment. "Oh, please! I was perfectly in control. I've driven jet skis before. This was no different. You nearly capsized a fishing boat, collided with a navigational buoy, and sped through a no-wake zone while running from federal officers," Officer Riley stated, her voice as flat and unyielding as a steel beam. "That is the definition of reckless endangerment." Ilara folded her arms across her chest, letting out a dramatic scoff. "That's all just technicalities. No one got hurt!" Then she turned to me again, fixing me with that cold, sinking glare. "You're really going to let them do this to me over a little joyride? Over a borrow?" "Ilara," I said, my voice rising slightly, "you put other people in danger. You don't just get to walk away from that." It was then that her husband, Todd, arrived. Poor Todd. His face was a roadmap of utter exhaustion and profound, soul-weary resignation. A man who had clearly been through this particular flavor of Ilara-induced crisis hundreds of times before. He was rubbing his temples hard as he approached. "Ilara," he sighed, his voice carrying the immense, tired weight of 1,000 arguments. "What did you do now?" "Oh, don't you Ilara me?" she snapped, yanking at the cuffs. "They're overreacting." "I just took his boat for a little while." "It's not like I stole a car. It's an asset." Todd turned to me, looking more profoundly apologetic than I'd ever seen him, almost defeated. I'm so sorry," he mumbled. "I don't even know what to say." Todd tried one last time to reason with Ilara, but she just turned on him. "Are you really going to take his side over mine?" Todd hesitated, looking at her, then at the damaged boat, then back at his wife's entitled, furious face, and finally, he just gave up. He threw his hands up in a gesture of complete, soul-cleansing surrender. "Yes, Ilara, I am. I don't know how to keep defending this kind of stuff. It's always something with you." Ilara was stunned into silence, a rare sight. She tried one final desperate plea with me. "Look, if it's really that big of a deal, I'll pay for any damages, okay? I'll write you a check. Just don't press charges. I don't want to lose my membership to the yacht club." I shook my head slowly. "Too late. The Coast Guard is handling this now. It's out of my hands. You chose this path." Her face went through several shades of horror before she let out an incredulous, pathetic little laugh. "Oh my God, you are such a baby about this. The public won't care." But she was wrong. Just as the Coast Guard led her toward their patrol boat, Finn, who was now editing furiously, let out a triumphant roar. "Oh, buddy, it is so not over. See this?" He shoved his phone in front of my face, showing me the screen. "I posted the video of her screaming about a borrow 15 minutes ago. It already has 40,000 views." Ilara's eyes, full of rage just moments before, widened in sheer, absolute, terrifying panic when she heard that number. She lunged forward, trying to swipe the phone, only to be yanked back by Officer Riley. "Take that down! That's illegal! You can't film me!" Finn just grinned. No, Ilara, it's not. You were in public, filming a crime in progress, a crime you publicly broadcast. That's fair game, honey. The internet loves you." As they pulled away from the dock, Ilara was still screaming, her frantic shouts of "Unfair!" and "You'll regret this," fading over the water. A slow, almost wicked grin spread across my face as I realized the full implications. Ilara had made her entitled, reckless bed, and now, thanks to the undeniable power of the internet, she was about to become infamous for it. And something told me that public humiliation, that loss of control, over her own image, was going to drive her even crazier than the Coast Guard ever could. The next few days were a blur of insurance calls and repair estimates. The video exploded, racking up millions of views. People couldn't get enough of Ilara's rant about a borrow, and someone had even remixed it into a surprisingly catchy song called The Borrow. Lady. The cost of the repairs to the tidal wave was covered by her insurance, thank God, but the inconvenience was mine alone. That changed about a week later. I was down at the marina checking on the boat's recovery when Ilara showed up for her first day of mandatory community service. She was trying to go incognito, wearing gigantic movie star sunglasses and a baseball cap pulled low, clearly attempting to maintain her dignity while scrubbing public mildew. But it didn't work. Everyone recognized her instantly. I was sitting on a bench when she spotted me. Her expression went from embarrassed to absolutely incandescent with fury in about half a second. She stomped over, her cleaning supplies rattling in the bucket she was carrying. "This is your fault," she hissed, her voice low and tight with hatred. "All of this! The fines, the ban, the community service." I raised an eyebrow. "My fault? You stole my boat, Ilara," she scoffed, a tiny entitled noise. "I wouldn't even be here doing this humiliating labor if it weren't for that stupid video." "It's everywhere. People at the grocery store point at me now. I can't go anywhere without someone whispering, 'The borrow lady.'" I leaned back, taking a deep, satisfying breath of salt air. "Well, maybe next time don't steal a boat, Ilara, Or maybe next time learn what the word permission means. She glared at me one last time. A look of pure, concentrated venom, then stomped off toward the dockside bathrooms, where her assigned cleaning duties awaited. Finn, who had just walked up, put a hand on my shoulder. Man, you think she learned anything? I smirked, pushing myself up from the bench to check on my boat. Not a chance. But she's facing consequences, and that's a start. Finn grinned. Still best day ever, and I had to agree. My boat would be repaired, Alara was finally facing the music, and thanks to the undeniable power of the internet, she would forever be a cautionary tale for entitled boat thieves everywhere. The system worked, but honestly, the internet delivered the real justice. So, that's the story of Alara the Borrow Lady. It's done, but honestly, the whole thing still makes me wonder, where do people get that level of entitlement? Is it the environment, or is it just born into them? And if you were me, knowing the HOA and the legal system, would you have pushed for the full civil lawsuit on top of the Coast Guard charges, or was the public shame the perfect kind of karma? Let me know what you think in the comments below. Hit that like button, and subscribe if you want to hear more stories where the entitled finally get what's coming to them. Thanks for watching. Kung ku Gemini ko the max I sought. Vive, no shak min kautra loiku a Gemini.